So when you say seed oils, let's define what that means, because there are a lot of different plant-based oils. So could you elaborate there?
Yes. So let me just start with, I think there's the vegetable oils, which would be, I break down in my own mind to seed oils, fruit oils, and tropical oils is the way I break them down. The seed oils are the ones we really want to avoid. And the seed oils are the really high omega-6, sort of generally industrially produced oils. Those would be soybean, corn, canola, cottonseed, rapeseed, grapeseed, sunflower, safflower, rice bran, sesame, and peanut oils. All of those, very high omega-6, very industrially produced, highly processed. Won't get into that detail. Then you have the fruit oils, which is mostly avocado and olive oil. And these are much better oils, much lower in omega-6. And then you have the tropical oils, and that's really palm kernel, and coconut oils. And these are much lower in omega-6 in general. Palm oil is about 10% omega-6, which is pretty close to the same as olive oil, but definitely not as healthy. I won't go into the details. And then you've got coconut oil and palm kernel oil, which are only 2% omega-6 linoleic acid. And so those are very, very healthy oils, but they don't have the fat-soluble vitamins A, D, and K2. Like none of the vegetable oils have any vitamins A, D, or K2, right? They're completely nutrient deficient in that regard. And so, so anyway, I steer people strongly away from the seed oil category because these are the really dangerous ones. And the other ones are nuanced, so there's a lot of potential discussion there. But I recommend people consume butter or maybe coconut oil if they need lots of oil. But I recommend butter, or it could be tallow or lard. But those they should really best be raised ancestrally, meaning they're not
grass-fed,
Yeah.
grass-finished, wild-caught,
Yes.
free-range, that kind of thing.
Right. Yes.
So seed oils, why are they so problematic, do you think? I mean, we've been hearing the nutritional message to eat your seed oils for almost 100 years, right? So what is the mechanism of their underlying, human dysfunction, if you will?
Yeah. Well, before I get to that, Peter, I want to just answer maybe the second part of your statement, which is that we're told we should be eating seed oils, and I just want to make it really clear that what I'm saying here, and what many of us in the functional medicine space are saying, is completely 100% diametrically opposed to what allopathic medicine tells us, which is eat your seed oils because they lower your LDL cholesterol. And I always say, well, so does arsenic. Doesn't mean it's healthy, right? And indeed, seed oils, vegetable oils will lower your cholesterol, and they do that because they're oxidative. But and that's probably as much as I'll say about that for the moment, unless you want to go into that further. But the reason that they're so harmful is because the omega-6 fatty acids in the seed oils accumulate in our body fat, and which also means that they accumulate in our cell membranes and in our inner mitochondrial membranes, and they then develop this biological milieu that is pro-oxidative, pro-inflammatory, toxic through advanced lipid oxidation end products, and nutrient deficient. And so I call those the 4 pillars of hazard. And I'll just mention that, to me, I think the pro-oxidative part is by far the worst problem. People always talk about inflammation, but the more I understand this, the more I now believe that it is oxidation that is the huge driver of pathology. Because it seems oversimplified to put it this way, but for the layman's perspective, it is like we're rusting inside. We're the unsaturated fats of the seed oils, the omega-6s, undergo oxidation easily, and so when you fill up your membranes with these fatty acids instead of saturated and monounsaturated fatty acids, they're prone to oxidation, and we produce 10, like for example, 10 to the 21st hydroxyl radicals in a day, just naturally a typical person, and that is going to damage the unsaturated fats because they're going to oxidize. So anyway, bottom line is that oxidation is a very devastating type of event, and that's what's happening when you eat lots of seed oils. That's the worst thing.
So oxidized oils in your cell membranes causing inflammation,
Yes.
accelerating the aging process, breaking
Yes.
the body down faster than it can heal or repair itself.
Absolutely.
So omega-6, the linoleic acid, is an essential fat, right?
Yes.
And I think I'm just playing devil's advocate
Yeah.
here because that's the other side of that argument, right? Is
Right.
eat your essential fats; they're essential.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a ratio of 6-3, omega-6, omega-3, that is more conducive to human health, say, than not?
Yes, so omega-6 linoleic acid and omega-3 alpha-linolenic acid, which we'll call LA and ALA if you want to, for their acronyms, respectively. These are both essential fatty acids. We must have these in our diet to probably just to survive. I'm absolutely almost certain that everyone will die without linoleic acid and alpha-linolenic acid. However, it's impossible to get too little if you eat food. And I mean it's impossible. Speth and Spielman, hunter-gatherer researchers, looked in depth at this because the hunter-gatherers are getting extremely low levels of fat, some of them, in their diet, and extremely low levels of, for example, omega-6 linoleic acid, as low as 0.35% of their diet. And to give you perspective on this, so we modeled what Americans would have been getting in 1865 in their diet before there was any seed oils and when all the food was naturally raised, no corn and soy fed animals, which raises omega-6, all this. And we determined that the average American was probably consuming about 2.2 to 2.6 grams of omega-6 linoleic acid, or LA, per day. So when the vegetable oils entered by 1909, we had doubled that. By 1999, that had gone up, well, let me give you the numbers, from about 2.4 grams up to about 19 grams. And by 2008, we're at 29 grams of omega-6 linoleic acid per day. So we went from 1.1% omega-6 in 1865 to 11.8% in 2008. 11-fold or 1,000% increase in omega-6. But anyway, back to the question of, well, we need these. Yes, you do, but it doesn't matter what kind of food you eat, you will supply your minimum daily requirement of omega-6 LA and omega-3 ALA. And I don't care if you eat popcorn or if you eat oranges or apples or bananas or white rice for your diet, you will still, there's enough fat in those, and the percentage of the omega-6s in those is high enough, you will meet your demands to reach those levels. And if we look at, historically, for example, 19th century Americans who did not have seed oils in their diets, they had not only really low omega-6, it was, like I said, it's about 1.1% of their diet or so, but their omega-3 was probably roughly half of that because most of them had no other great sources of omega-3 as we think about it today. They weren't getting lots of fish or seafood or getting flaxseed oil or anything like that would raise their omega-3. And it's the same situation with hunter-gatherers. So I'm convinced, Peter, that what we need to think about is keeping our omega-6 and omega-3, in my view, relatively low. In other words, I'm not a fan really of supplementing the omega-3s, and we certainly, no one should ever supplement an omega-6 fat for any reason.
There's plenty in the diet, plenty there.
Always.
You mentioned about oxidation earlier. Are there other mechanisms of complication from excessive seed oil?
Yes. So as I mentioned, those four pillars of hazard, I call them. So we have the inflammatory processes. So when you consume high omega-6, that drives production of arachidonic acid, and the downstream effects of that is all inflammatory mediators. Prostaglandins, eicosanoids, thromboxane. So this is driving inflammation, vasoconstriction, and clotting, right? And so that's the inflammatory pathway, and everyone around the world accepts that pathway. Then you have the third pathway of destructive effect from the seed oils is what I call the toxicity, which is through the advanced lipid oxidation end products. And these advanced lipid oxidation end products they're chemicals like 4-hydroxynonenal, 4-HNE, malondialdehyde, MDA, carboxyethylpyrrole, acrolein, 9 and 13 HODE. All of these are downstream metabolic effects of linoleic acid actually oxidizing. Well, these advanced lipid oxidation end products, or ALEs, they are ultimately cytotoxic, genotoxic, mutagenic, carcinogenic, atherogenic, thrombogenic, obesogenic, and diabetogenic. I mean, could we get any worse?
Yeah.
And this is just the toxicity part of it. So you have that arm or pillar, if you will, and then finally the fact that all these oils, no matter if they're really healthy, really low omega-6 like coconut oil and palm kernel oil, even the good ones like this, they have no vitamins A, D, or K2. You won't find a single molecule of retinol, active vitamin A, or vitamin D, or vitamin K2 in any kind of oil. Well, butter, beef tallow, those are good sources of those vitamins. So they're also nutrient deficient. So just put all those together and you just have the recipe for metabolic disaster and physical degeneration.
Yeah, and then add sugar to that, and stress and other lifestyle variables or factors like lack of activity, lack of sleep.
Exactly.
And yeah, I agree. So that's a lot. That's a lot. Where can people learn more about your work and research? I know you have a nonprofit.
Yes. Yes, we have two nonprofits, Ancestral Health Foundation, which is at ancestralhealthfoundation.org, and we have Cure AMD Foundation, which regards macular degeneration. That's at cureamd.org, and these are both 501c3 nonprofits. I do have a new book. It's called The Ancestral Diet Revolution. Again, I accept no compensation for this. The proceeds, the royalties from the book sales all go into the nonprofits. Because my goal is to reach people with this message and help people. That's why I do this.
It's fantastic. Bottom line, bottom takeaway for the listener, avoid seed oils at all costs.
Yes.
And don't worry about not getting adequate omega-6. You're getting plenty of that. Any other last words? Any other big things that we didn't talk about that you feel like are super imperative for the audience to know?
I just think, the big picture is really simple. For a lot of us, things can get really complicated, but the big picture is simple. Eliminate seed oils, eliminate refined flours, refined sugars for the most part, and I think by that point you're 90-95% of the way towards a good ancestral diet. And then if you have issues, then those people need to come to somebody like you, Peter, who can figure it out and help them solve all the other issues, because we all have issues, but we need to be on an ancestral diet first, right? And then we can deal with the more minor problems.
Hit the low-hanging fruit by changing your diet first. Yeah,
exactly.
Well, Chris, thanks so much for being here today. I really do appreciate your time, effort, wisdom, and all the work that you've done to help people understand how to be healthier.
Thanks a million, Peter. I appreciate it.